Alright, so this is what we're going to create, and I'm going to show how to do this. Basically, I start with a coil, and that coil is basically just allowing me to create some helper geometry. So by default, that's not set to spiral, that's set to create a helical structure, but I change this to spiral. And I'm also going to change this to something smaller. I say something without specifying what exactly that something is. And I make that a little smaller, just to get the inside a little smaller. I mean, that's just, you know, a matter of taste, not necessarily a have to be. And you can of course play around with the dimensions of that coil, but it's just, the purpose is to create some basic geometry that we can use for our T-spline. Then I'm going to create a sketch on that same plane that I created the coil on, say project one of the edges. So also the default is circular for the profile here. I can check that triangular, anything that gives you an edge that you can select. So, and now I actually don't need to see that particular body anymore. And I'll create a line, and that can be a horizontal line or whatever. I'll pick this one here. And then I'm going to create a pattern. And again, I'm not going to create anything from this pattern, so I try to usually stay away from sketching patterns, but in this case, this is just giving me some outline geometry to create my T-spline. So now with that sketch in place, I'm going to go to Surface, create a T-spline, and create a face. I need to pick a plane, and what I also need to pick here in the face tool is Object Snap, and that allows me to snap to sketch objects, to curves, to lines, to line endpoint or curve endpoints, but unfortunately not to intersection point. Even if you go into the sketch and make a sketch point on that intersection point, when in T-spline mode, unfortunately Fusion doesn't allow us to snap to that. That's okay, so I'm just going to eyeball this here, and I start here. And as you can see here, I create a quad, and that quad does not go all the way to the outside. And that's okay. Again, we're just trying to create some basic outline here for our quads. And you don't actually need a sketch for that, but I find that just helpful. And I'm going to go all the way around and create my basic shape here. And I always need to make sure that I snap not so much to these lines, but to the edge here, or to the corner point of that T-spline geometry that I already have. So that I'm not by accident left with any unwelded vertices. You can always weld these together after the fact. See, there I didn't pay attention. The points turn blue. I don't know, I have a fairly high resolution screen, so that is not easy to see maybe. But if you snap to that here, the points turn blue. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I need to go either completely counterclockwise or completely clockwise. Alright, so here we can see that we have a little, oh yeah, when I finish this it goes automatically into smooth view mode unless I switched it to box view mode. And you can do that on the keyboard. On the Mac you use the Option key, on the Windows it's the Alt key. Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3. I'm not referring to the number keys here. So I don't need to sketch anymore, I can hide that. And I'm double clicking here on this edge. Actually I'm going to double click on that edge. And then I'm going to right click here and say insert edge. That is the menu is also here in the modify menu. So insert edge, and I need that somehow. I think I'm shooting myself in the foot here. Insert edge, and that's what I wanted. So that did not complete the edge all the way around, so I end up here in the middle. So I need to do that manually. Modify insert point does that. I can snap to this here. Once it starts snapping red here, that means I have snapped to the center point of that edge. Alright, okay, so now if we would count vertices or edges, I have an octagon here in the middle. Once I create another face here, now I could actually go ahead and fill that octagon . So now you can select this edge, make this, this, and this, edit the form, and pull all this up sharply. That'll probably look a little awkward, so I'm not going to select all of that. Or am I? Yes, I am. So the transition with this particular version of what I'm doing is not going to be too awesome, but it's not going to be bad either. So I'm putting these up, so basically I'm coming up from the bottom and spiral up, so to speak. And I can also switch between box view mode and smooth view mode here in that dialog. So we can see that our spiral works quite nicely. So, and now I could do, for example, this. I edit the form, and these little dialog boxes always somehow show up somehow where you don't need them. And then I hold the Alt key and pull out new geometry, and that doesn't quite give me the shape I'm looking for. So I say OK and go into, maybe that works, flatten, there it is, and I select a parallel plane. The default is fit, but I want a parallel plane, and that will be the parallel plane. And then say OK, and what I want for what I want to happen is, first of all, I'm going to pull out some more geometry, maybe like this, say okay, and I want to flatten that again, modify flatten, there it is, but in this case I want to flatten it to, not just to a parallel plane, I want to pull it to a specific plane, and that is the plane here that I sketched on. And though, because this pulls up a little high here, I pull this down, I might pull this down, and I might pull this out a little bit more, create more flat geometry. Okay, so now this all still is just a surface. We're going to create something that's a little bit more volumetric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click to select the whole thing, edit, and I'm going to move this up by, let's say, 9 millimeters. Say okay. And then I'm going to double click to select that outline here and move that, actually hold the Alt key to create new geometry and move that outline down by minus 9 millimeters. So I should be ending up with that outline, or with that edge right on my origin Y plane, YZ plane, Y X plane, and I do. So now I can basically just use the symmetry and the mirror duplicate, and I had that selected, so now I'm going to select this plane, and it also already gives me the mirror or the symmetry, the green symmetry line. So I'll go back to smooth view mode. There is my basic scroll, so I could say now finish form, and I have, while it's still a surface model, I'm just going to simply cap the end of the surface and stitch it and say okay. And now we have a solid body, and I can show that with the section view. So there we go. There's a scroll that can be milled out of solid wood in Fusion 360, because this is a solid body and not just a mesh. So hopefully this helps.